Well, it was a crazy time, 1888, and where we find ourselves are the streets of Whitechapel, at the East End of London. And Whitechapel was a labyrinth of streets, absolutely packed to the seams with people and horses and stalls, buildings, houses, many of which were actually converted into kind of makeshift brothels. So it was incredibly noisy, busy. Ventilation was really, really poor in the homes that were in the streets. And all the water that the people were drinking came from shared standpipes in the streets. So it was just awful conditions. The sanitation was almost non-existent, and 2 from every 10 children would die from disease. The annual death rate was about 50 in 1,000, which is just crazy statistics. And in the 1881 census, there were 1 million people that lived in Whitechapel. 1/3 of those were in poverty. So these are squalid, poor, horrific conditions to be living in, really.
It's interesting being so late as well in the century. 1888 is relatively recent if you think, sort of 30 years after that, you have the First World War. So it's very, very interesting to think about.
Exactly. We would consider this pretty modern, given the time period, which is crazy that these are the conditions that people are living in that sense. So it was a confusing, hectic, noisy, dark, crime and disease-riddled labyrinth of slums and alleyways. The conditions were awful, but that meant that they were the perfect setting for serial murder. And this is where Jack the Ripper comes in.